Hey everybody, it's Scott Shetler here with Strength and Health TV, and this week I'm pretty psyched to have my friend Chris Guinn here. Chris is the director of the Humane League Atlanta office, and he's also he does his strength training up here at my training center here in the Atlanta area. So, wanted to take a minute here and introduce Chris and let him tell you a little bit about himself and what he does. Chris, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. So as Scott said, I'm the Atlanta office director for a nonprofit animal advocacy organization called the Humane League. I'm 26 years old. I'm from the Northeast, Rhode Island, Boston area, and I moved to Atlanta about a year ago to start working for the Humane League down here in Atlanta. And I'm really psyched with the work we're doing here in Atlanta. I like being here, and I just started training at Scott's gym like maybe a month or two ago, and it's going really well so far.
Cool. Awesome. Well, one of my first experiences with the Humane League was at your gala last year, and one of the things that really kind of blew me away was during the presentations when you guys were showing the different statistics and things like that, the impact that organizations like the Humane League have had on animal rights and welfare. It was absolutely mind-blowing, especially when you talked about I think the budget you guys were operating on was something right about $1 million or something like that. Can you talk a little bit about the work that you guys do, the impact that it's had on animal rights and welfare, and just fill us in on some of that?
Sure, exactly. Like you said, we are in the realm of the animal rights community. We're one of the smaller organizations. So, given that we have limited time, resources, a smaller budget, we want to make sure that we are as effective as possible, dollar per dollar, so that we have the biggest impact for animals that we could possibly have. So we really think critically about all of the tactics that we employ, the different forms of outreach that we're engaged in, and we're very driven by what works, what doesn't work. We try to be flexible. If we're doing something that doesn't work, we'll drop it and adapt, and just really make sure that everything we're doing is as effective as possible for animals.
One of the things, especially if you pay attention to news topics, social media, and things like that, you see some different approaches to people trying to bring to light some of the issues in things like factory farming and just overall animal rights, animal welfare in general. What are some of the strategies that you've found in your experience that are really successful as far as getting the message out there and sharing this information with people who might not be aware of what's going on in these industries, and what are some of the tactics that you found to not be quite as effective?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that the Humane League, we call ourselves a vegan organization. Everyone on staff is vegan and has been vegan for years. And that's the long-term end goal is, people not eating, exploiting animals for any purpose. But at the same time, we recognize the importance of pragmatism and working within the confines that we're given. And unfortunately, our job isn't as easy as I would prefer it to be. So we try to, work with the situation we've got and stick with approaches that we know will lead to, some realistic behavioral change for people. So for example, we talk about our messaging. We have a wing of the Humane League called the Humane League Labs that is our little research division, and we've conducted some research on images that are most effective in pamphlets, the language that's most effective. So for example, if you are trying to persuade someone to make some more animal-friendly choices, maybe ditch meat, or start with Meatless Monday or something like that, people are way more receptive to the word vegetarian than vegan, for example.
Sure.
So even if the end goal is I want this individual to be vegan, it's much better in literature to use the word vegetarian, just because we know based on the research that people see vegetarian as much more approachable and vegan is kind of scary.
Why do you think, just to kind of jump off on a little side tangent here, why do you think the word vegan and veganism has been associated with so much negativity?
I think it's in part due to...
is it like too radical, or is it too...
I think that's part of it. Not that the concept is radical,
right,
obviously,
right.
But I think there's a negative stereotype associated with vegan that has been perpetuated for a few decades. Like vegan is seen, as you said, a little more radical. Vegans are self-righteous, angry, in-your-face hippies. which obviously you and I know is nonsense.
Yeah, you just described me.
I mean, yeah. Listen, that person is out there. But, they're 1% of the vegan community. I mean, you and I know that vegans are, doctors, lawyers, people in the NFL, the NHL, like normal people from all different walks of life. So the stereotype doesn't really hold today, but it has been perpetuated. So I think there's a negative connotation. And I also think people think that vegan is unattainable, whereas vegetarian, they're like, I could give that a shot, but vegan, So
I think too, you mentioned that's a good point. You also, people like to throw around the term vegan police. How vegan are you? What love? And I mean, there really is, it goes beyond food. It goes beyond the clothes that you wear. I mean, there's so many different levels of your involvement in veganism. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a judgmental approach to, well,
Sure.
You do this, but you still have a pair of leather shoes that you had 5 years prior to going vegan, so you're not vegan. You see a lot of these, and I think it's like this minutia that people get hung up on.
Yep.
And, even in popular media and stuff, like when Beyonce and Jay-Z announced that they were going to try plant-based diet and stuff like that.
I was going to say that's
what's your take on all this stuff?
That's the perfect example. I feel like, there's a dictionary definition of what a vegan is. So, vegans don't eat animals, they don't wear animals or exploit animals for any purpose, that kind of thing. But I feel like a lot of people get wrapped up in the idea of veganism as personal purity. And you are only vegan if you do this. If you have a drop of honey, don't call yourself a vegan, etc. And I feel like that's really counterproductive towards veganism, because if being vegan is about helping animals, that attitude turns people off from a willingness to explore a vegan lifestyle. If we portray veganism as something that's really hard, we're nitpicky about our every ingredient that we check, it just makes it look difficult and unattainable. And obviously, I avoid animal products. I eat vegan, but it's not worth portraying the vegan lifestyle as something that's difficult, because as you and I know, it's not difficult.
No.
So our job is to make this seem as normal, as easy as it is, and just have that be reflected through the way we live our lives. You mentioned Beyonce as vegan, and there was a lot of backlash from the vegan community about, she's in leather shoes or she's in a fur coat, etc. I mean, obviously she's not a perfect human being, but who is?
Right.
The takeaway from that, I think, is she's eating vegan. She's eating plant-based. She might not be a hardcore ethical vegan, but Beyonce is probably the closest thing we have in the United States to royalty, and her global influence is immeasurable.
It's massive.
She's huge. Her and Jay-Z are two of the biggest celebrities in the world, if not the biggest celebrities in the world right now.
I mean, I always thought like this too. If she puts out a tweet mentioning vegan, mentioning plant-based, mentioning vegan food, that's gonna touch more people in 10 minutes than I'm going to get to all week. When you look at the bright side of people like this getting involved at any level, it's only positive.
Totally. It throws the concept of veganism, into the mainstream. How many major news outlets covered, that story? I work full-time in animal advocacy. I volunteered for years. And, Beyonce will be responsible for more meatless meals than I will ever be in my lifetime, probably.
Sure.
So I think we need to focus on the positive, that, people who have never heard the word vegan, or who, would have never really considered it before, they know what a vegan is now, and they're trying vegan meals, they're researching vegan alternatives.
Which
because
has
of
an
their
impact.
influence.
If you take thousands of people, 1 million people who just start to experiment, try a meal here or there, that's going to have a collective impact. Again, it's not perfect, but it's going to have a much bigger impact than the 0.5% of Americans that are vegan continuing to eat plant-based all day, every day.
The Meatless Monday program is the perfect example for that, where it's a great foot in the door for people to start eating some more meatless meals, vegetarian, vegan meals. Obviously, I'd just like to tell those people, hey, go vegan, but realistically, most people don't respond to that message. We know people do not like being told what to do, so we present it as, hey, you've got a choice to help animals, start small. And I find once these things become more habitual for people, they're more likely to stick with it anyway. But yeah, you're exactly right. The impact that meat reducers in America having for animals is far outweighs the impact that vegans and vegetarians have.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because that article that just came out, I forgot what press released it or whatever, but it talked about the impact. I think something like there's roughly 9 to 10 billion farmed animals in America that are slaughtered for food on an annual basis. And I think wasn't it like 400,000 or 600,000, somewhere around there, fewer animals were slaughtered last year as a result of, and it wasn't the vegans doing what they continue to do, which certainly has an impact, but it was the meat reducers, like you said, that had the greatest impact on those numbers.
Definitely. There's a really awesome blog called countinganimals.com that I'll have you link in the video.
Yeah.
That goes over this data thoroughly, so that's something people can check out. But yeah, you're right. Meat consumption has been on a steady decline, and in a large part, it's just due to people who are still eating an omnivore diet, but are making a substantial reduction to the amount of meat that they're eating. So people who are eating meat half the time and replacing all their chicken with vegetarian or vegan meals, when you consider that millions of people are doing that versus this small minority vegan population, by the numbers, those individuals are the ones who are making the biggest impact for animals. And that's why I think programs like Meatless Monday, or even just people who are meat reducers, vegetarians, aren't yet vegan, those are all behaviors we want to encourage and foster relationships with these people and say, that's great that you're doing that. You're having an impact for animals. And obviously, there's a time and a place for a conversation about the dairy industry, for example.
Sure.
If you've got a friend who's been vegetarian for a couple years, or a close friend, and you're vegan, you can say hey man, you should look into the dairy industry because it's really cruel. But someone who's just starting to eat vegetarian meals for the first time, they've never even had tofu, they don't know what tempeh is, we've got to kind of be patient, because when we're not super pushy and we let them come into this on their own and do it in a way that'll be sustainable long term, that's the way that we're going to have a meaningful impact for animals.
And I think it's the key takeaway here is to look on the positive side of issues and things like that. That while it may not be perfect, look at the good that things like Meatless Mondays are doing. Because I remember seeing a topic online about how the hardcore just militant vegans were like, all Meatless Mondays do is give you an excuse to eat whatever you want the rest of the week. And I look at it more like these people are omnivores anyway. What's to say they're not eating meat on Mondays? Now what it's doing is taking one day out of the week that they're just going to eat plants. So I from a positive standpoint, when you take that many thousands and millions of people and they're cutting out either just for one solid day eating nothing but vegetables, that's a huge impact.
It's definitely
massive impact.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a good way for people to try new things.
Sure.
Like Meatless Monday is, I don't want to say an excuse, but it's a good reason for people to experiment with foods that they might not normally eat. So most Americans throughout the week are going to be eating some meatless meals, some stuff that's accidentally vegan that they don't even realize. But if they have a designated, this is my vegetarian day for the week, they're going to be more inclined to try like a tofu stir fry and be like, oh, this isn't too bad. I like this kind of thing. So yeah, it's a really good foot in the door, and that's, like I said, people don't like to be told what to do. So when you're like, hey, you need to go vegan, people just shut down. They get defensive. So I mean, there's a wealth of knowledge out there about social psychology, what works, what actually gets people to change their behavior. And I think we should really factor that into the equation when we're talking about effective altruism.
Yeah. That's great points. So let's shift gears a little bit since we're talking about food and I'm starting to get hungry.
Sure.
What's your favorite healthy vegan meal?
Healthy
vegan meal.
I don't know. I like burritos. I feel like I can do those relatively healthy. That's probably my favorite food overall.
Okay.
When I walked in here, I had a bowl of oatmeal with walnuts, pumpkin seeds, blueberry, and agave.
That sounds like a very stickman influenced meal there.
Yeah, definitely. The pumpkin seeds for sure.
Yeah.
That's all him. And I eat that for breakfast like almost every morning, like that or a tofu scramble. I really like that.
Cool.
My approach to my diet is to be pretty flexible. I try and eat relatively clean, but not super disciplined to the point where I drive myself crazy.
I mean, as all my plant-built teammates can vouch for, my buddy Jason and I, we like our donuts. And Austin has some great vegan donuts. How about, what's your favorite non-healthy vegan meal?
Ooh,
Whether it's purposely vegan or accidentally vegan.
I can definitely throw down on some vegan mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Soul Vegetarian
man.
here in Atlanta is the place to go. There's a place called Woodlands in DC, which is like vegan soul food too. That's really good. So that's probably my pig out meal for sure.
Nice, awesome. All right, so let's talk, since we're talking about food and health and things like that. There are definitely a lot of misconceptions about people who are either athletes or people who are into fitness and training, who follow a plant-based diet, who follow a vegan lifestyle, that you certainly can't get enough protein is one of the biggest things that we hear. Energy levels, hormone levels, things like that. There's just so much negativity around, well, being vegan might be fine for the normal person.
Yep.
But for somebody who wants to get strong, build muscle, be an athlete, it's not the optimal choice, which we're seeing more and more every day, that just isn't true based on the number of athletes out there and things like that. So you personally, you've really been getting into strength training and fitness and stuff like that, and you've made some pretty awesome gains since you started. What has been your progress? How much muscle have you built and things like that?
Well, I started working out maybe like 2 years ago or so, maybe 3 now, but for the first, 2/3 of that span of time, I was just someone who wasn't very athletic. I just decided I'm gonna start working out. So I was going to the gym. I was doing mostly isolation exercises, curls and that kind of stuff. Not really doing any big compound stuff or calisthenics. So my results were kind of minimal, and also I wasn't eating enough. I didn't really know enough about what I was doing. But over the course of time, I incorporated big compound movements, squats, deadlifts, and that kind of stuff into my workout. I feel like now my nutrition is much more on point to the point that I'm eating enough as I need to be to make muscle mass gains. But yeah, it's just kind of a journey of figuring out what to do in the gym, what works, and how to take care of myself outside the gym.
What's your progress been? Because I know you've put on some quite a bit of muscle mass actually.
Yeah. When I started lifting, I was maybe 130 or 100, probably 130 pounds. At my lightest, I was 120 in college. I'm 160 as of this morning.
Nice.
And yeah, so I've put on
about 35 pounds.
Exactly, yeah, and it's definitely. Obviously that is satisfying to me, just putting on the size. But it's additionally satisfying because it's all been vegan.
Right.
Prior to being vegan, I was a pretty scrawny dude. And I made the decision to start lifting, well into my veganism. So that's a point of pride for me, just because.
Well, that's really cool because you see a lot of these, particularly people like Patrick Baboumian. He comes under flack all the time of he built his size and strength on meat, and then he went vegetarian, eventually vegan, and he just kind of maintained it, which I think is complete bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
He's been vegan for many years, and he's continued to break records.
Totally.
And if they say your cells turn over, every 18 months you got a new body, his body's building itself, sustaining itself on plants.
Yeah.
So that's complete bullshit. But for you didn't build your body as an omnivore. You built your body strictly on a vegan diet.
Yeah, and I think that's good. I started working out for for personal reasons, for my mental health and all around well-being, and obviously I want to look good and feel good about myself, but probably my biggest motivation is animal advocacy and the outreach I do, because when I'm out there doing grassroots stuff, handing someone a pamphlet, I want their reaction to be you're vegan,
right.
And instead of the condescending, where do you get your protein, a genuine tell me how you do this, I want to learn more, because I think that's such a powerful tool. The stereotype, as I said, of vegan is not a big bodybuilder looking dude.
Yeah. It's scrawny, granola hippie, skinny.
Yeah. So I try to combat the negative stereotypes as much as I can.
Cool.
Because I feel that is a hang up for a lot of people. Especially young athletes, you know what I mean? They don't want to sacrifice their athletic performance. So people need to understand that this is absolutely doable on a vegan diet, and if anything, it's going to be better for them because they're not going to be taking in
Well,
extra
look at
cholesterol.
look at David Carter.
Yep.
You know, for instance, the NFL. He's been vegan for a little over a year now, maybe a year and a half.
Yep.
And he was recently, if you listen to the Rich Roll podcast, he did a great interview with Rich Roll. And one of the things he said was, not only is he maintaining his size, he's about a 300-pound guy, give or take.
Yep.
He's not only maintaining his size and strength, but the thing that he noticed after going vegan was the recovery was better, he felt better, his joints felt better,
Yep.
certain inflammations and things like that started to go away. So you can't deny that because the one variable that he changed was his diet.
Yeah.
He's training hard, he trains like a madman. He's carrying around a lot of weight. 300 pounds on your joints is a ton of weight.
Sure.
And he's out there, smacking into people and hitting things.
Yeah.
So he's definitely got it's a brutal sport, it's a brutal discipline. And the things that he's found is that those little injuries, the nagging things, have gone away and gotten better. So you can't deny, the stuff is beneficial.
Totally. I think it's just an issue of people's willingness to give this a shot and to hear it out for what it is. Obviously, the animal agriculture industries are for profit. So there's a lot of, it's propaganda out there. You know what I mean? Look at the, like the dairy industry is like, you need milk for strong bones. It's just you do a 2-second Google search and that almond milk is richer in calcium, is better for you, and if anything, it's dairy milk that is has a strong correlation with osteoporosis. So there's they want to protect their profits. They want people to think that it is necessary to eat animals to be big and strong.
Well, they're in the business of selling milk and cheese, and to deny that link. I posted. I'm a big fan, and I know you are too, of Dr. Garth Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Another great interview on Rich Roll's podcast. And I had shared some information that he shared, from that podcast and a link or whatever. And one of my friends on Facebook had posted a link to a study saying that we don't, that the RDA is too low on protein recommendations and that we need more protein. If you look at the abstract, the first thing is they're thanking the Canadian Dairy Farmers Association, and of course they're recommending dairy and meat as being a great source of all this extra protein that you need. The one thing, I'm not against scientific research, I'm not against studies, I'm all for it. The problem is studies can be manipulated. When you look at who's funding the study,
Exactly.
you can put a study together to get whatever results you want.
Yep.
So, and that's the thing I like about Dr. Davis is he spent 3 years, research for his book that's coming out. He spent 3 years immersing himself in the research, finding out what BS, studies and what wasn't.
Totally.
That's a huge point to consider.
It's hard to know, of that research, what is objective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just encourage everyone to do your own research and come to your own conclusions. And obviously there's a lot of information out there that is just perpetuated by word of mouth. And
Sure.
But yeah, I would say think critically about this stuff, especially for athletes. I'm vegan for the animals. I think that should be our main concern. Is it's not necessary to eat animals, so why would we want to
Right.
cause them any harm,
Right.
kind of thing. But that aside, even just as an athlete, for your own body, like this, this is the body you've got for your life. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And especially if you're an athlete, you wanna take care of your body so that you can perform at your best, all the time.
Well, and so kind of going back to that whole, the meat, we need meat, blah blah blah. You get so much flack, and I hate to bring paleo in the mix here, but so many people walk around acting like we're like really cavemen nowadays, because and they throw around things like opportunistic, omnivore, and they throw around terms like just using the idea that, we were cavemen, we are cavemen just driving nice cars now, and that's where our bodies have adapted to eat. I think that's a horrible example because when you're talking about somebody who didn't have access to Whole Foods, to a grocery store,
Sure.
to a farm, they were of course they were opportunistic.
Yeah.
They were looking at survival. They would have eaten anything. They would have chewed on a tin can if they thought they could get some nutrients from
Totally.
it.
And obviously, I think that's a little far-fetched given where
Right.
we are in the year 2015.
Exactly.
But I understand what they're saying, and as a biological animal in a survival scenario, yes, I would do what would be necessary for me to survive. But
Right.
the reality is that's not the scenario,
It's not the
and it's not going to be the scenario.
And you don't need, and the thing that drives me nuts is when they take that scenario And because human beings can be opportunistic omnivores, they say, well, we need animal protein. You don't need, your body takes protein from the amino acids in foods. And there are all the amino acids you need in plant-based foods. So your body will take the protein it needs, it stores those amino acids, uses them as needed. So
Totally.
it doesn't need to come from, I mean, when you look at what the meat, people aren't out eating lions, they're not out eating carnivorous animals.
Yeah.
Most people eat cows or chickens or farmed animals that eat what? Plants.
Yeah. And obviously hearing this stuff, like as a vegan who cares about animals, is frustrating. But at the same point, at the same time, I see myself in that person who says that stuff because, that was me.
Sure.
I've been vegan for almost 6 years, but for, 20 some odd years,
Yeah.
I ate like your pretty standard American, like meat heavy, dairy heavy diet.
Me too, yeah.
And, I just went along with the idea that, I need this. Even, I was probably, sympathetic to the plight of animals, but was, one of those people who was just like, that's bad, but, what can I do about it?
You turn a blind eye to it. You
Totally.
just disassociate
So,
with it. Yeah.
so I try and when I hear that stuff, take it with a grain of salt and understand that this person's not there yet. And
Right.
I've been this person.
Which is very important for people to consider because I only know of 2 people in my personal life that I've had contact with. One has been vegan since birth, the other's been vegetarian since birth and vegan for about the last 16 years. Those are the only 2 people I know who have been either vegetarian or vegan since birth. Everybody else I know has eaten meat at some point in time.
Exactly. Yeah. And earlier I was talking about the negative stereotype of the self-righteous vegan. And when we're approaching people and trying to have a conversation about our ethics and the benefits of plant-based eating, we don't want to be patronizing or be condescending.
Right. Yeah.
And it's good to meet people in the middle and say, listen, this is how I ate for most of my life, well into adulthood. So, I understand exactly where you're at, but I had this wake up moment where I did some research. I learned more about the benefits of plant-based eating. I saw some footage of factory farms. I was playing with my dog and I made the connection that,
Sure.
What's the difference kind of
Right.
thing. So it's good to always be positive with people. You never want to be negative and just be realistic and say, I'm vegan now, but I'm not a saint because I am.
Right,
And for a while I wasn't, and that's most people. It's not a thing where people just suddenly I'm vegan now. You
Right.
know what I mean? It takes some steps to get there. So just kind of like I said, always be pragmatic and I try and look at every single interaction I have with someone as a potential victory for animals.
Sure.
And just what is going to be off-putting, what is going to work, how is this going to be a positive conversation where this person actually listens to what I have to say and will consider it versus, if I put out a bad vibe and they're just going to tune out and say, oh, just an angry vegan.
Right.
I think all that stuff is, important to think about in all of our interactions.
Yeah, great points. So let's wrap this up a little bit. Let's talk about, get into a little bit about your involvement with the Humane League and what you guys are doing with Team Humane League.
Sure. Well, first, I guess I'll say that I am the Atlanta office director with the Humane League, and I've been here for about a year. But I've been an active volunteer with the Humane League for years prior, and I'm really happy to call this organization home because I'm really proud of the work that we've accomplished and our overall approach to our activism. We've been rated one of the most effective charities by animal charity evaluators, by Independent Charities of America, as one of the most efficient dollar per dollar charities for animals.
Nice.
This year, we're doing a national fundraising team called Team Humane League. It's the first year we've done it. Before we had a couple of small regional running groups, but now we're in 11 cities, so this is our first national fundraising effort as a national team. And it's really awesome. Each of our 11 offices has a team. So there's a team here in Atlanta, for example. And it's a really awesome way for the vegan community, vegetarian community to come together and do some good for animals in a way that is good for you personally. It's good for the community. And basically, the idea is you as an individual, or maybe with your partner, with your group of friends, pick a fundraising goal, some type of athletic accomplishment where you challenge yourself to go big and do something for the animals.
What's your goal for this?
So my goal is to put on 20 pounds of muscle by the end of the year. And I've been training for about 5 weeks. I've already put on 4, maybe 5 pounds now. So
some nice gains, especially you were traveling a little bit during that time too.
Yeah,
so you
yeah,
weren't in the gym the whole time. So
yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's as far as people's involvement, you don't need to be like a super athlete to get involved. I mean, it could be add X number of pounds to your deadlift, or it could be I'm gonna hike this trail with my dog. You know what I mean? You don't need to be a super competitive athlete. As long as you're willing to just like challenge yourself with something. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like challenge yourself, set up a fundraising page, and then locally we do a lot of meetup events. We've got a dinner at Green Sprout here in a couple weeks in Atlanta. But we'll do like social events. We'll do training runs. If we get some more people who are doing strength training stuff, maybe like a group lift night. But it's a really awesome way as vegans and vegetarians for us to show the outside community hey, like look at what I'm capable of on a vegan diet, while at the same time supporting the work of the Humane League. All the proceeds raised 100% goes to support all of our grassroots offices. If people want to learn a bit more about what we do for animals, I talked a bit about our approach earlier, but thehumaneleague.com/impact is a good place to learn more about what we do. And for people looking to sign up for Team Humane League or learn more, it's just teamhumaneleague.com.
Okay, and we're going to put all these links in the notes underneath the video, so
Awesome.
Chris will give me all the links to all these places, so please definitely go check them out.
But yeah, I'm really excited about Team Humane League, especially as someone who is working out anyway. I mean, that's I feel like a lot of vegans are pretty active people, so this is like a really cool way to turn your pre-existing fitness goal into something where you can make an impact for animals. I'm fortunate to have a position where I get to work full-time helping animals, but most people are, they've got their established career, they're working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, so they don't have a ton of time to come out and do grassroots outreach or that kind of stuff. So this is like a super simple way to expand your impact for animals a little bit. And I'd encourage people to, learn more about what the Humane League does, and if it's something that you want to support, definitely get involved with Team Humane League.
This is a great point too, about how people can get involved in things like that, because I know every time, because I'm one of those people who I work, 6.5 days a week, morning to night. I don't have a lot of time. I used to do a lot of volunteer work in the past whenever I could, but everybody thinks you need to volunteer and be an extra set of hands, and that's definitely beneficial. Anybody can use that kind of help, but money also is a great way to support organizations like the Humane League, and what you guys are doing with your with your fundraising efforts and stuff like that. Sign up, donate $5, $10, all that stuff adds up, and all that stuff is so beneficial because you guys don't operate on big budgets, and money is very, very helpful. So if you can't go out and volunteer, donate some cash every now and then, because it's a very, very impactful form of contribution.
And as I said, we'll link it below, but you can learn more about the impact that we have for animals. But obviously none of that would be possible without the support of our donors and supporters.
Sure.
We're 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're a pretty small staff, but everything we get done is because of the support of our donors, our volunteers, our interns, which is something I love about what I do is the community of it. It's not I'm the Atlanta guy. It's me and hundreds of people coming together for animals, and this is just another way to do it with Team Humane League.
You guys definitely have a great group down here. Like I said, the gala that you guys threw last year, your first gala was amazing. The information that handed out was unbelievable, and everybody that was involved was just top notch and all great people. So I was really happy to be there and be a part of it. And,
happy to have you there.
Cool, man. So we'll put the various links to if you want to follow Chris on social media, if you want to check out the Humane League, if you want to check out Team Humane League. We'll have all the links down here in the notes underneath the video. Chris, is there anything that you want to leave people with before we get out of here?
I would just say if you are looking to expand your impact for animals, consider some grassroots outreach, some leafleting, which is super effective for animals, and I do a ton of it here in Atlanta. But anyone can give back to this movement, whether it's with volunteer time, if it's making a gift to an organization, or even just if you've got a unique set of skills, if you're a good web designer, photographer, etc. These are all ways that we can be working to expand our impact for animals. So just think critically about what can I give the movement, and then get involved.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Always awesome to have you in here, and hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of Strength and Health TV. Again, make sure you check out all the links in the notes underneath the video, and if you've got any suggestions on future topics for the show, be sure to leave them in comments below. Until next week, stay strong and stay healthy and save animals.